First of all, the party, I hate the logo.
Utaki kusikiza ground?
I hate it. I'm sorry. Like, oh no. First of all, si ulikuwa ndani. Ulikuwa unasikiza watu kweli. Saizi ndio umetoka, unataka kusikiza wananchi. Okay. Because we started this conversation with, were we paying goons before? No. It's becoming more expensive to hire goons because now we are meeting them 2 years in advance to an election. You'll need to be hiring goons at every public rally that you will have. People are not going to survive with the resource. Unless you're doing wash, it's going to be too expensive to have engagements if you're constantly paying goons to have a peaceful event. I think Kass and Kebaso can talk a lot. They spend most of their time talking.
They're walking the talk.
Yeah. They could use a lesson in listening and allowing others to talk in their space. Just because you're there doesn't mean you must speak.
Great to have you on Richard Mwenja Exclusive. We continue bringing home conversations that are shaping Kenya's political and governance landscape. I'm back in town and I'm not alone. I'm also with the phenomenal company of Executive Director Siasa Place, Madam Nerima Wako. She's back on the show after a 2-week break. Nerima, great to see you.
Good to see you.
Greetings from Moist Bridge, my village area.
Oh, nice. I received those greetings.
But they want you to vie for the presidency in 2027.
You know, a lot of people have been telling me this. I'm playing around with the idea because the choices that are coming up, I'm like, surely I can actually be better. I can be better. Who knows?
But there's also another call to action that you get Rigathi Gachagua as your running mate.
I know.
Who would you?
No.
It has to be a new face?
It has to be a new face. Like, we know what we're dealing with. First of all, the party, I hate the logo.
Utaki kusikiza ground?
I hate it. I'm sorry. Like, oh no. First of all, si ulikuwa ndani. Ulikuwa unasikiza watu kweli. Saizi ndio umetoka, unataka kusikiza wananchi. Okay. It's a bit late to say listen to the people, you know. It's late. So for me, I would say new faces, new parties. I am ready for fresh ideas, not the same old people that have just worn different colors. These are chameleons. You can't convince me that they are going to be different. These are the same people.
But history has borne us witness before that many leaders meet the Damascus moment at one point or the other. Why do you feel that that's a far-fetched thing for Rigathi to realize and probably change tact and work for the people and for the best interest of the masses?
I think you know what, personally, we've been talking about this on this show all the time. For me, I still feel that Kenya is in a different dispensation. Now, the political elite, and when I say political elite, it's those who have been in politics for 20 years plus. They are still acting the same way. That's how ODM was formed, okay? And then remember we had ODM Reloaded, where now they took the young members of parliament that now went through the different parts of the country in a caravan, and they are saying we're bringing a freshness, you know, ODM Reloaded. And that's where Kina Mabona, you know, they grew from that. However, what are we seeing? The same thing. You know, if Rao can do handshakes with all our presidents that have existed, and now they're expecting him, like the game plan for DCP is to bring as many people as possible into this coalition, call itself opposition, and force Raila to join it. We saw that in Rainbow. We saw that when we had NAC and the Rainbow Alliance, Kibaki Tosha. Rao was forced to say Kibaki Tosha. He did not want to. Initially, he did not want to. But because the movement, the momentum, everyone seemed to be on one side, they are trying to create a 2002 moment. So we are seeing the political elite using history to repeat history, okay? And the reason why I think it's changed, were we paying for goons?
They would come up for free at zero cost.
Unaona. They would come for free, and they would come maybe based on tribe, huyu ni mtu wetu, maybe. Now, Now we are paying for them. There's no loyalty, zero. It's just about who has the most amount of money to be able to create and cause havoc.
Not even Raila Odinga, who many have argued that he's always enjoyed organic following.
This is the first time, remember when they did that MOU signing at KICC, people were being paid 1K, 2K. People were mobilized the night before. And there were rumors that it was through Sakaja that they were receiving this money. This is the first time that crowd that was swimming in those ponds and doing all sorts of dancing, they were paid to go for this event. Normally that crowd would be organic. And it wasn't Uhuru Park. Uhuru Park, because the ground is so vast and wide, we would see, me I've attended, like, I think it was 2000 and what? There was a time I was in Tao. And I think it was after this when Miguna was supposed to swear in Rao and he didn't. That mammoth of a crowd, I was in Tao. It just looked like, I don't know how to explain it, not even ants. You've seen that crowd of people just descending.
Yeah, into the horizon.
I have not seen that again with Rao. I've not. Even in 2023, when they had the large crowds of people and they were threatening to escort him from the airport. It was a lot of people, but it wasn't the mammoth. The last time we saw the mammoth was June 25th.
Fed in allegiance by the day?
Yes, June 25th. That day, people came out passionately, organically. They were not called by Rao. Rao has never been able to call a crowd that large after June 25th. And it's a year later. It'll be a year later in a few days. And so for me, that dispensation, it has changed Kenya politically, especially in the capital. And I think that these individuals, the political elite, they're trying to capture this power again. Like, how do we capture this momentum? How do we grab the masses? And they're saying, listen to the people first. Is it going to work? I don't think it's going to work as fast as they assume. I think they're assuming just them coming together is all it needs. That's a lie. There's a group of people that needs convincing. They're fatigued. They want something refreshing. In fact, a lot of people are just saying, okay, Matiang'i, we know him, but at least he's strong. At least he's a dictator. At least he can be able
benevolent dictator.
Yes.
Not a ruthless one.
Fix things, at least. So you're seeing people are now fetching for something different, not what we're used to seeing. And I feel they're assuming they will just flood money and they will be able to push people to their agenda. But I don't think it's going to be as cheap. Because we started this conversation with, were we paying goons before? No. It's becoming more expensive to hire goons because now we're meeting them 2 years in advance to an election. You'll need to be hiring goons at every public rally that you will have. People are not going to survive with the resource. Unless you're doing wash, it's going to be too expensive to have engagements if you're constantly paying goons to have a peaceful event. That, for me, is a big, big red flag and a concern. It's an indicator that they are showing us, let's get used to the violence because 2027 is going to be violent.
You foresee 2027 being a violent election?
It is showing signs. Ukiona mawingu sitanyesha. It's showing signs of being violent, and this is a clear indicator. Where if the formations that we're seeing are being met with violence, the election will be violent.
So then, do you render the statements from, say, Kindiki, Murkomen, and even Gachagua, they are all condemning political intolerance in the sense that violence oftentimes crowns political events. Is that a hypocritical call from them, that we shun politics of violence?
It is hypocritical because they're the ones who have access to the state agencies that are able to share information in advance if an event is going to be violent. And if it is, because within our constitution, we have every right to associate and organize and meet and assemble and even demonstrate, their role is to make sure that the police are present to make sure that the event is safe. That's why even as a private citizen, if you want to hold a demonstration, you only need to notify the police in advance. so that if they receive intel that it will be unsafe, their job is to provide security. That's why you notify the police. You don't ask the police for permission. You don't. So now what we're seeing is, if there was indicators of violence, then government should have provided security to make sure that Gachagua's event is safe. That is the rule. You don't protect people that you like. You protect citizens of the country. It's not about who you like, because freedom of expression is also part of our constitutional right. So I feel it's doublespeak, it's petty. And if you know that the event is going to be violent, why not provide security? If it does become violent, why not let us know who these goons are? Who is paying the goons? If someone can be shot at CBD here, City Mortuary, and we are seeing people getting arrested, up to 12 suspects.
At supersonic speed, actually.
Yeah. So if you can see who is managing goons and violence, why are you not telling us who is managing this violence here? Why are you not arresting them immediately and showing an example of them, so that this does not continue to become the norm? It will become the norm if we're not careful. Where now when we see public events, we know it will be violent. Like, it's becoming the norm. They started in the church. Now they're following him to events. Now at his own vicinity, his own party. This is showing you that next it can be someone's home. We cannot normalize it, because even when you look at the images, there are no women. It's a lot of men fighting each other. Even when you're watching those AKs, or I don't know the size of those guns, they should belong in Rambo movies, not in the public. There are no women.
Men are the signpost of violence in this political
Are you
events.
seeing women? Did you see women there scattering, running for help?
They could be the architects in the boardroom for this violence.
They are not. No, they are not. For me, that's a worry, because even in the protests, there were a lot of women. That's why the protests were successful. Because where you see women, it's safe. Where you see baddies, why would a baddie come out to somewhere where she doesn't feel safe? Ukiona goons unakimbia mbali sana. The indicator that a place is safe is when you see a baddie. Yeah. Once there are goons, there are no women.
Anarchy.
Tuna scatter. Yeah, you'll be like, you even know. Una sense too. Unawaona. You're just like, things are looking... You scatter.
So only show up to a political event when there's a baddie next to you. Yeah. That's the surest sense of security.
Safety. Yeah, safety and security. Yes, that is an indicator.
Nerima, glad that you brought the issue about violence in our political formations and even in our structures. Now, let's backpedal to the issue about DCP party launch. If you look at the architecture of its interim leadership, party leadership, and even the outlook from its launch, would you say that the Gen Z constituency, and that these we are talking about the youthful segment within Kenyan youths who want to claim some sense of political power, would you say they've been an afterthought even in the formation of DCP party itself?
So, I personally know the Youth League chair, Wanjiku Thiga. She was initially in Moses Kuria's party. She vied in the last election. So there are people within there that I could see, especially young people, like even Gitonga Mukunji. I saw one of his people. Wanjiku Thiga is very close to Njeri Maina, Member of Parliament, Kirinyaga, Women Rep. So I could see young members, people within the party. So for me, it was fascinating. I was like, okay, at least they have been put in the National Executive Council, the NEC. And I was like, this is fascinating. And I don't know if they will survive. I don't know if it's just for show because it's just starting. Because also, there were some positions there that were interim. So you can tell that, hatuko sure sana, kuna mtu tunangojea.
Mark timing.
Tuna mark time. So I would say from the onset, it was eye-opening, because normally there's a certain, with every person you see, you know who they are connected to, like that. And that's how parties form. And that's the intentionality of it, because in the end, you want to bring as many people as possible under that umbrella. So they thought through it. They did. they also involved young members that I've already mentioned too, that I could see from the list and be able to trace. And that for me was different, where we're seeing that there's a sense of an intergenerationalness. Malala has also found some placement. We're seeing that they're trying to open themselves as the refuge. This is the refugee home. People who've been kicked out of UDA.
The last resort.
Yeah. Those who did it intentionally by walking out, and those who were kicked out, because we know that Malala was thrown out. They have found a new home. So this looks like the refugee center. And maybe why they picked green, to show that maybe, don't worry, this is still your home as well.
There's plenty of food.
Original. Yeah. But don't worry, we've created another home for you. So maybe why? So for me, it would be fascinating to see the kind of influence that they have. Because still when they show the flag bearers, when they decide, because they keep repeating, we will eventually decide who will be the one. All of us will come together. But the ones that they keep fronting are still the old faces, you know? So they are still struggling with the public face. But internally, I can see a sense of intentionally roping in younger voices. Will they have influence? I do not know. I think time will tell, because in parties, it's not about the public face. It's about who controls the strings at the back. I don't know. I don't know, Mwenja, who is actually pulling the strings at the back. He didn't, Gachagua at the launch, they weren't visible. Because they are party owners. You know, people who, they decide. I don't know who the party owners are. And I think with time, it will eventually reveal, and we will see whether there's a sense of, are we still doing politics the same, where party owners decide? Because when young people become frustrated, they break away. They break away. We're going to see a lot of people leaving their parties. A lot. And they're going to be looking for a home. I don't know if they're trying to place themselves as the home, but time will tell. Time will tell.
Even before we question whether these people who are moving out of these parties want to place themselves as the homes in the first place, let's circle back to the DCP party launch. And many have argued that this far, it didn't bring forth the national appeal, the national outlook. It by far remained a party that only passes the impression of a tribal party, a regional or ethnic-based party. Is that what you read from the lenses of Nerima?
Yes, you could see that there was a lot of thinking that went through representation. And it's the usual ethnic representation. And that's why, you know, I said that when it comes to the organizing, we're still seeing people organizing the same way that they have known to be organizing. They're still doing politics the same way. But where I feel it's going to be different is the economic culture we're in right now. The fact that we have to pay for goons, we have to pay for people to attend meetings. People are being paid to clap, some are being paid to cheer. That has not been there. That has not been there. And the reason why that's important to recognize is because we have started politicking so early, it's going to be so expensive by the time we now get it to D-Day. So expensive. I don't think we're going to see, we have never seen as a country the amount of resource that is moving hands right now in regards to an election. So I think that they're going to lose this middle people, the people who are like, I'm tribe Kenya. Me personally, I don't care what tribe the president is, as long as me I'm seeing development and progress and opportunity. There's still a group of people, few people. In fact, people would argue with me that that group doesn't even exist. All of us are tribal. At the end of the day, I don't know. There are a lot of people who have been saying, I don't know what happens to Kenyans. When it comes to voting day, we automatically become tribal. Mtuwetu syndrome. Yes, you can say that for a large number of Kenyans. But there's a middle class, middle ground that they genuinely look at. Ideology, record, what does this person stand for? And the reason why I don't want to dismiss that group is because as much as they are small, if they choose to engage they influence the top and the bottom drastically. And that's what happened last year. Last year, that middle group decided to be involved because it was touching on their small, medium businesses, the finance bill. They were like, hey, kitu ikipita, I cannot survive.
We're doomed.
We're doomed. And this middle, because they chose to engage, you saw the ripple effect that it had on the number of people who now were engaged, involved, concerned. Now, the reason why I think this middle group is going to be pushed to do something, USAID. We are beginning to see the ripple effects. Many of them working in NGO, benefit from NGO, that trickle down the health sector. Government is also funded heavily by USAID. Now USAID has cut. These people are now jobless. Many of them. Suddenly, they had 3 offices in 3 counties, now they have 1. They have to let people go. People were comfortable earning dollars. Now they are not earning.
Paid in dollars.
Paid in dollars. That group is frustrated. Now they are jobless.
Building rage.
Building rage. What are you going to do with that group? It's a small group. But imagine that is the group. Mtu ushago, tunataka kufanya mazishi. They are called. That is the group that is in Nairobi supporting a family of 10. Wanaenda shule, wanalipa karo. I mean, dependency. Now, that person who's frustrated has a network of another 10. So me, and I feel like the political class is not seeing, in my view, that group is going to be forced to be involved. Because they are seeing, hey, biashara ni mbaya. Me, I'm not making profits. And even though someone was telling me how, even during COVID, beer was selling.
Oh, really?
Yeah. See, people were still going out. Remember when that time CS Kagwe was like, it's the youth who are spreading, they're the spreaders. Because people were still going out to clubs. They were staying indoors. They were locked in, drinking. There's even a famous video of a guy. There's a guy, I don't know, I think you know this video. Anatembea peke yake amelewa. He's like, haujui tuko lockdown. Na amelewa yake yote. He's like, lockdown.
What is that? People were still taking one for the road.
Aye, they were still taking one for the road. COVID. Now, a friend of mine who works now in the industry is like, hey, sales on Senator have plummeted. We have never seen how low these sales are.
Low purchasing power.
Low purchasing power. He's like, Kenyans, we drink ourselves through issues.
Yeah.
Even COVID to survive. COVID, beer was making sales.
You take it to the bottle.
You take it. Now he's like, hey, guys are not drinking.
But sober but angry.
Yeah. But no, bado wanalewa. So they're like, ama wanakunywa changa. Because guys are still drinking. So, if guys are now going for the cheap alcohol to remain high, what's going to happen when they can't afford the cheap? Because guys are escaping. Like, that's how we escape. Guys will drink their way through problems. Let me just stay in my thoughts, especially men. Let me just stay in my thoughts and let me take something for the road for the evening. So now when they can't afford now that, and now they are going to changa, it is very scary to think what happens when people can't afford changa. You will have a very angry, sober population. Where now, they're just like, kaende. Like you, no, you're not, I can't even numb myself, my problems. You're making me face my problems.
Now one term is unstoppable.
Yeah. And if we continue, because we're seeing that there's a gridlock of finance. Money is not circulating.
Budget shortfalls everywhere.
Yeah, money is not circulating. And if we're not careful, people will not have that. Sometimes you use that extra money, like once you pay everything, to just relax. Now people are not relaxing. Hey, I don't think they are realizing that. And we're still quite far, in my view, politically, to 2027.
You're caught in danger. These established political figures would argue that money has always been used in Kenyan politics to attain some sense of political power. And we're talking about this Gen Z constituency who do not really have the money, but they have ambitions of clinching point 2027. They believe that's wishful thinking. Is that so, Nerima?
So what I'll say about Gen Z is I feel that they had an unfair card. You know, life gives you cards, right?
True.
And even when you look at some of them who are maybe in university, this story of HELB, this story of university funding model, many people have been kicked out of school because it's expensive. And I'm bringing this point out because when you talk about young people's engagement, at least there was a cushioning. We've seen generations that had boom. We've seen generations that could go to the village and rely on their parents, at least wacha niende nilime. Now, they don't have even a semblance of a safety net. Now, they are being called by their parents, ati, oh, naweza tuma pesa hapa, oh, nisaidie, mom. They are helping. They've become caregivers even before having access to opportunity. So they are very stressed. So even sometimes when you see leaders making fun and saying, those people are on drugs, where else would they be?
Mental issues.
Yeah, they are very stressed. So when you even see them gambling on Aviator, it is a way to release. That is one. So when people are stressed and they are cornered, the only thing they do or they can't do, they are left is to blow up. So I would say that even though there's this pressure, Gen Zs, they're not going to do anything, it's getting to a point where they are seeing, by the way, that lie we've been fed, work hard is not working. Me, I see my parents working hard all the time.
Education is the key.
Education is the key, is not working.
They changed the padlock.
I'm being led by people who don't even have education. People are class 2 graduates and they're here leading ministries. They're beginning to see the truth. This is a lie. Education is not the key.
Perhaps why you are questioning their technical know-how, like Kabogo, ICTCS?
Yes. I mean, the people are even questioning, what does he know?
Come on, Nerima.
You don't have to be someone who has gone through university. That's what this administration has shown us. You don't have to understand your ministry. Sycophancy
pays well?
Yes, that's what loyalty pays. That's what we are seeing before us. And so you can't be here yelling at young people, you guys need to organize, you guys, you need to... And they are seeing in the front of their face that that's a lie. You're feeding us a lie. That is not true. No matter how hard I work, even if I try and organize, I cannot form a party. Even if I'm in the party, there are party owners who decide the direction it takes. They will decide who gets the nomination ticket because you're the one who can afford it. I am stuck. So it gets to a point where when you put someone in a corner, they will have to defend themselves. And I think that a lot of people will defend themselves by making sure the system doesn't work because it's not working for them. So why should it remain working for you?
To somehow soften the hearts of these Gen Zs that you're talking about, Nerima Wako, the president made a statement that these families that lost their children, most of whom are abducted, they now have their children back. The abductees have been reunited with their families. Do you believe that that statement from the president stood on the grounds of truth?
No, it didn't. Honestly, when he was answering that question, I think he was so confident that I'm giving a response. You know, sometimes you just want to articulate and say things and you're not really thinking through what you're saying. Because for him to say that, it's an admission that abductions were being done by the state. So if you know that people have been returned home, then you know who was taking these people. This is actually a huge calling in terms of people demanding more accountability from the president himself. There's something you're not telling us. That are you involved in abducting these young people? And it's very sad to mention this right after Mother's Day. There are mothers who couldn't celebrate it because they have buried their sons. That is inhumane and insensitive. And I think it's an open call to the courageous members of parliament, if we have any left, to question these things within Bunge and ask for accountability, not even ask, demand for whatever we have left of our Bunge, if we have anything left. I think that statement is enough to carry legal action forward. And we as Kenyan people should not allow it to be said at State House, on a podium, under oath, and just take it lightly like that.
So some of the president is still governing this country on a litany of lies. That's what you want to believe?
But we know people have not gone home. We know there are people who are still missing. In fact, according to IMLU, there are over 20. We know this. So why speak to something that is fact? Like we can see visibly, there are people who have not returned home.
We are talking about the issue of our leaders making reckless and careless statements that probably could snare them in the near future. For President William Ruto and some of the MPs allied to him, talk of Bashir, the MP who said that people are killed every day, we need to sympathize and just move on after the BBC expose Blood Parliament. Will this now inform President Ruto's biggest Waterloo in 2027, the reckless statements?
Yes, it will. And I love how the public took that statement and ate it up. Because right after the member of parliament was shot, people are like, yeah, it's true, you told us. You know, people die and we
sympathize and move on.
We move on. And it was amazing now because it's one of their own. They're like, Kenyans are so heartless. But we have just repeated what you are saying to Kenyans. Honestly, it's a mirror. So it's fascinating that it took something to happen to you for you to feel the pain of what Kenyans have been saying to you. And for me, even I think it was Weta who was like, I don't know what's wrong with Kenyans. It is, what's wrong with Kenyans? You're the ones who have made them mad. You're the ones who have made them crazy because all they did was repeat what you have been saying to them.
You are the author of their pain and rage?
You are the author. Yeah, they are. And until they realize that, I think they're also finding it very difficult to manage Kenyans because, you know, someone was like, you know, politicians think that things are the same. You know, Kenyans, we can just bribe them and we'll get whatever we want. They will elect the same people. Ignore that stuff. I said, if Kenyans were the same, finance bill this year, why is it so quiet? You're scared. You're scared of the Kenyan people. You don't want them to visit you in Bunge again. Because if Kenyans were the same, see, you'd still be chest stamping.
Yeah.
You'd still be showing us the finance bill, you can do whatever they want.
You digital wankers.
Yeah. But what I've heard is they've made sure that the finance bill is as simple and boring as possible. Boring.
Boring is the word.
Yeah. So the only thing that might be controversial over there is that taxing. You know, right now you have to tax 24,000 and below you do not tax.
Yeah. Tax
now they are bringing it to 20,000. That's the only thing they are saying. Hapa might be a bit dicey. But everything else that could be controversial, they have taken it to other bills just so that Kenyans don't notice. It's not that they are not doing it. They are doing it. They just moved it to other bills and divided it so that we can't tell. And then they've left the finance bill as a skeleton. If Kenya had not changed, they would have not done that. Kenya has changed and they know it has and they are worried and they know that it just takes a small prick to be able to bring anger. And they're trying as much as possible not to wake up the giant. They're tiptoeing the giant as they appear. The giant is sleeping. But they know if someone trips, they are doomed. They are doomed. So Kenya changed. Yeah.
All right, second finally, Nirima. Boniface Mwangi and Kelvin Omondi have filed a petition challenging the approval of IEBC nominees. They have raised trust issues with that team that was nominated. But from the sense of Nerima Wako, we are talking about IEBC, Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. This far, why does that term, independent, remains mirage when we are talking about IEBC?
Well, simply because even the selection processes has a lot of political involvement and influence. Trust has always been a challenge for us when it comes to our elections. And we have seen it work when people are open about this person represents this party, this person represents this party, IPPG. That it worked. But then now we have this entity that you mentioned is supposed to be independent. But people normally look at the names and they're like, who submitted this name? Which party submitted this name? This represents which region? And that's where the distrust comes in. And even how is an institution independent when they depend on who for resources? Government, again. So if you are supposed to be independent but you rely on the hand that feeds you, you're not independent. Because they come and start threatening you. We're not going to give you funding for this and that. And so also that pulls away the word independent from this institution. Kenya will have to start over. IEBC has a lot of challenges. It's not just about the commissioners. There's also a division within the secretariat in terms of the kind of influence that they carry. And even that partnership is almost non-existent, to the underfunding and the fact that a lot of IEBC offices at the moment are closed. So we start worrying about IEBC when we're close to an election. The only thing we don't do is listen and implement the Kriegler report. We always end up repeating the same mistake. So there's an intentional aspect of making sure IEBC doesn't work. We know what we need to solve it. We just choose not to do it. Yeah.
Glad that you brought up the issue to do with funding some of our institutions. And you've seen the budget cuts within the education sector. Now, even prospects of our candidates sitting for some of the exams, national exams this year, hangs at a limbo. And the government says we are operating under a constrained fiscal environment. But if you look at the government's priorities, say refurbishments of State House and other offices in India, year in, year out, would you say that speaks to misplaced priorities from the government of the day and really gambling the future of Kenya in the first place?
Absolutely. It is misplaced. And you know, also, it goes to you not really listening to what people are saying to you. Because when people are struggling to get 1 meal a day, and then your priority is refurbishing State House, it's a complete disconnect to the issues of the people and where you place resources. And I even saw someone asking online, why do I see refurbishing State House every year? Like, how much can you refurbish, you know, in a place that you have to do it annually? And that also shows the amount of wastage that is involved. And for me, this state of opulence, like, you know, you don't have to show that you have money. You know, me, I'm so tired of seeing red bottoms. I'm so tired of seeing red bottoms. And it's interesting because Louis Vuitton is normally seen as heels for women, but here we're seeing red bottoms with men. And I'm just like, is it a confidence issue? You know, like, let me give you a story. There's a friend of mine, there's a time I was in his office and he was buying a watch. So there's a lady who came, she's selling watches, and the watches were so like bling bling gold, like so big. And he's not that big, like for me, he's like 5'5". He's not a big guy. And so even when he's wearing the watch, you know, this lady is trying to sell him his watches. I'm sitting there in his office and I'm just like, you know, I'm just like, what is all this? So she leaves, he's left with 3 watches. All of them are big, you know. So he's like, what do you think about the watches? You kept rolling your hands. Which ones do you like? I said, Kwani, you want to be a tolly? Like, what is this? Like, why is it so like, ba-bam, ba-bam? You know?
Was that really necessary?
Yeah, because, you know, he has the body for a big watch.
Okay.
You have to have a big body for a big watch. But a tolly was necessary because even the gold chains.
Or Mike's uncle, perhaps.
Yeah, you know, I'm just like, for me, honestly, when I see men wear a lot of jewelry like that, I feel like it's a complex.
Shallowness and emptiness.
Yeah, I feel like there's something you're fighting. Like it's a complexity issue.
Attention deficit, perhaps.
Yeah, maybe it's a short man syndrome. I don't know.
Or you never circled enough as a child, maybe.
Maybe there's something you're lacking because now you want people to be like, wow, nice watch. I know.
Yeah.
Do you like
to compensate for my empty brains?
Do you know how much I got it for? You know, so there's something there. You're lacking confidence somewhere. That's why you wear all this bling. So for me, when I see this team, I'm like, the commonality, they are friends, but there's also a deficit in their personality that they compensate for in expensive items. So we normally see the t-shirts, the shirts, the watches, the shoes. So it's not just the refurbishing of State House. It is the opulence that is so visible in their clothing, in their accessories, that you're just like, you know, you're here saying, I'm looking for crumbs, I am trying to eat, but then you're showing me gold. We are going to get to a moment of, you know, Marie Antoinette, the French Revolution, where she's in the palace, she's enjoying cake, Marie Antoinette was not eating bread. Bread is for commoners. Mkate ni ya commoners. Cake is for the wealthy. So when she's being told, the people are angry, the people are angry, they are saying there's no food, they are not eating, there's no bread. She looks back at the messenger and says, feed them cake. I don't understand. If there's no bread, give them cake. What's the problem? And that statement is what started the French Revolution. Because according to her, she had an array of cake. She's not understanding why people are talking about there's no bread. In front of me, there's so much cake. So you just come eat the cake.
I'm spoiled for choice.
I'm spoiled for choice. That disconnect is what we're seeing. And that's actually what even sparked in terms of leadership wondering why are people so angry? Until now, they're even framing like, he's not even spending as much. You know, you've seen the posts, you know, Uhuru spent how much billions, Nani spent how many trillions to do a railway. This guy is spending less, you know. You're seeing Tainguni sharing the numbers. Kenyans, it's just because of who he is. No, it's because of what he shows. It's not what he says. It's what he shows. You guys should dress him in cheap things. Maybe we'll start listening so we're not distracted by the bling. Yeah, maybe he'll connect better with people.
Finally, Nerima, in the interest of time, Morara Kebaso, Kasmel Mwakoure are out here calling for the youthful segment of this country to come up with a political formation, one which will build enough political power to send the government of the day home and probably now to steer this country ahead. But why are we seeing many youths not really buying to their idea? They are treating their call to action with contempt. Are they blemished lambs?
I agree in terms of calling on young people to participate, engage, form an alternative. I agree with them. But it becomes very difficult when some people's personalities, rather than attract, they repel.
Yeah, more of repellents.
You seem to agree so quickly.
Well,
it's repelling.
The writing is on the wall.
Yeah. So what they need to do is identify people within their circles that attract. You know, attract, because you should know. You should know your strengths and your weaknesses. You're like, hapa, kumbe, I'm not attracting. So how do we change strategy? That's why I think they go wrong. There's the assumption that I declare I am leader. So because of that, I will stand at the front. A true leader needs to identify their strengths and their weaknesses. If they are seeing they are repelling people, identify people who attract, put them in front of you. For you, the goal is the same. Is it not change? Don't you need many people for that change? If your personality is repelling, then take a step back. You don't have to be the one steering the ship all the time. And unfortunately, we are dealing with very strong egos, where people will not want to be part of the ship unless they're the captain. That's where we are. And that's something that the political elite, they have learned over time, that we can learn from very quickly. All of them came out saying they'd be president. But they've all now said, okay, we will agree amongst ourselves.
We shall agree.
But at least tutembe pamoja.
Yeah. Until the 11th hour.
Yeah, so it has to be the same. Also for young people. You say, okay, let's identify people who are saying they lead. We will decide the leader in the end. The goal here is to come together. And sometimes it's very difficult to find leaders who listen. I think Kas and Kebaso can talk a lot. They spend most of their time talking.
They're walking the talk.
Yeah. They could use a lesson in listening and allowing others to talk in their space. Just because you're there doesn't mean you must speak.
Just because you're there, you don't have to
speak. No.
Well, there you have it from Nerima Wako, Executive Director, Siasa Place. We've been having a conversations around Kenya's politics and governance, a raft of issues therein. We've unpacked that for you. Wait to see you on our next edition next week, Saturday evening at 7:30 p.m. Thank you so much, Nerima, for selecting time for this production.
It's good to be back.
Glad to see you after a break.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
I missed you.
Yeah, I missed you too.
Well, enjoy the rest of your day.